My clock is showing 3:02, so we will officially begin. Welcome to everyone, and we'll go through our roll call. Dr. Mandapaka, if you will, please. See how we're doing. Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be calling in the names of the TPC Workgroup members. If you're present, please indicate by unmuting yourself. Harris County Commissioner Adrian Garcia.
Here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Lewis, I'll mark you present.
Thank you.
Metro Chair Karen Patman.
Here.
Thank you. HGAC Executive Director Chuck Wimple.
Here, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Liberty County David Douglas. City of Houston Council Member David Robinson.
I'm here, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you. Houston District Engineer Eliza Paul.
Hi, Patrick. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. Fort Bend County Commissioner Grady Prestige. City of Sugar Land Mayor Joe Zimmerman.
Good afternoon, Patrick. I'm here.
Thank you, Mayor. Waller County Commissioner Justin Beckendorf. City of League City Council Member Larry Milliken. Montgomery County Judge Mark Keogh. City of Waller Council Member Nancy Arnold.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Port of Houston Executive Director Roger Gunther.
I'm here, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you. Harris County Flood Control District Executive Director Russ Poppy.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. And our ex-officio member, Texas House of Representatives, Thompson.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We can proceed to the next item.
Grady Preston is present.
Thank you. And I would like to note that we do have our sign language interpreter here. If you're seeing on the screen, Mark is doing the sign language interpretation. If you're using sign language interpretation, there's a way to pin Mark's window on the screen, like I'm showing on the window. You could pin so that you can continue to see Mark on screen. We also have Spanish translation here. If you're trying to make a comment, if you would like to request a translation, we do have Antonio as well to provide translation in Spanish. And Antonio, if you can speak a couple of words.
Sí, absolutamente sí. Hay alguien que desea hacer un comentario, que ha firmado para hacer un comentario ante el Consejo de Transporte. Por favor, a su tiempo háganlo y está disponible la traducción en español. Gracias.
Thank you, Antonio. Madam Chair, we did receive public comments in writing, and we have Ms. Neely Kim from our staff can summarize public comments we have received in writing as of today at 12 p.m. And we have uploaded the public comments that we have received in writing. So I will turn it over to Neely. If you're present, please provide a summary of the comments.
Yes, we had comments from Mr. Smalls, and just to summarize the comments made, Mr. Smalls commented he would like to see the completion of the Hardy Downtown Connector before decisions are made on the NHHIP project. He also put that half congestion relief would be due to the Hardy Downtown Connector, and that half of that relief would come from the NHHIP project. And he also discusses that much of the congestion relief would be solved by the Hardy Downtown Connector. And you can see more of his comments on our website. And that would be all, Patrick.
Thank you, Neely. So with that, we would like to open to any commenters who would like to make a public comment directly at the meeting today. We would like to remind that there's a 3-minute limit on public comments. If you are signed in through Zoom meeting, please raise your hand and we'll be able to take your comments in the order we have received. If you have logged in through a teleconference line, toll-free number, then please press *9 to raise hand, and we should be able to see the participants to see if there's anyone who has raised hand or open to the floor to receive public comments today.
Si hay algún participante que haya firmado para hacer comentario público, por favor, levante la mano a través de Zoom. Está limitado a 3 minutos para comentar. Gracias.
Thank you, Antonio.
My pleasure. Thank you.
At this point, Patrick, I'm not seeing anybody with their hands raised.
So if you're on Zoom call, there's a raise hand button under participants. If you click on participants, there should be 3 buttons, and bottom 3rd button is the raise hand button in Zoom. If you're on the toll-free number, please press *9 to raise hand. And if we do not see anyone that has raised hand, we can also open it to floor to see if anyone would like to speak up to make a public comment.
Está abierto en ese momento para hacer comentarios públicos. Si hay alguien que desee participar y hacer comentario público ante el Consejo de Transporte, por favor, indíquelo ahora.
Okay, Patrick, still not seeing anybody. If you'd like to invite people to make comments, that might be nice.
Again, if you, it is okay not to raise hand at this point. If you still would like to make a comment, speak up and we can invite you. If not, we will proceed to the next item.
Última llamada. Si hay alguien que desea hacer comentario ante el Consejo de Transporte, por favor, hágalo en este momento y con mucho gusto traduciremos a sus comentarios.
Thank you, Patrick. If you all still don't see anyone, I think we've
yeah, it looks clear to me.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, we know that there are a number of people who are on and who have been on with us for essentially the duration. We do thank you again for being on. We have heard and remember what you said to us previously. So I think we've committed to you that we are absolutely keeping your comments in mind and know many of the positions that you've expressed to us over the last 3 months. As we move into our next item, Patrick, I'd like to mention a couple of things. Point out that Mayor Turner, the City of Houston, Harris County, Commissioner's Court, Judge Hidalgo have provided written comments to the final environmental impact statement. Those were due earlier this week, and those written comments went back to TxDOT. Some of the requests there do offer the potential for us to probably need to look again at the language in the MOU. So for that reason, we anticipate being unable to conclude our conversation today about the MOU. We will open for comments just for a minute, just a minute in the agenda as you have outlined. We recognize that there's a lot of energy behind all the comments that have been made and the agencies that have provided comments based on what they've heard from their residents, as well as everyone's looking at the MOU, including the attorneys. And so we want to sort of remind all of us that we want to be solution oriented as we talk today. And I think we all have our hearts at the place of wanting what's been mentioned to as a collaborative sort of transformational project for our region. So, you know, each of us wants that, and we might not look at it the same way, might not see things the same way, but we do want the same outcome for this to be a project that is
Birthday.
for this to be a project that actually does transform our region as it meets the objectives and such that we desire. So with that, Patrick, I think we are ready to go into the next section of conversation.
So we have two documents, one document that outlines all comments we have received from TxDOT, another document that has comments that we have from the rest of the signatory parties. So, so I can start with any of these two documents if you'd like to go forward with those.
I don't know that we actually want to go through all of the comments as we have in the past. I think that there may be folks who just want to express some thoughts, again, moving forward, because I don't think we anticipate we're going to be able to come to conclusion today on the document itself.
Dr. Lewis?
Mayor Zimmerman?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Lewis, I'd like to ask TxDOT. One of the comments that they had provided was it was a paragraph that was in the background information. Realizing that the background information is really there to basically state very clearly what the project is, and the fact that all the parties to the MOU are entering into the MOU in a collaborative basis. I'd like to ask that the paragraph that was put forward by TxDOT, I'd like to ask that they strike that paragraph. I believe, as I've read the documents, actually multiple times, I believe that's covered in the scope of work. And I believe that with what's in the scope of work, all the parties, you know, Harris County, City of Houston, you know, certainly HGC, Metro, Harris County Flood Control District, that's the meat of the document and the scope of the work. And that particular paragraph, I think, is already covered in the scope of work. So I'd like to ask that TxDOT and Eliza, I know you're on the call, respectfully request that you guys consider striking that paragraph because I believe it's covered in the scope. Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
All right, thank you for that comment. Other comments from others?
I think that sounds pretty reasonable. I know the city feels similarly to the mayor of Sugar Land with that first paragraph. I wonder if Ms. Paul would like to respond.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Lewis and Councilman Robinson and Mayor Zimmerman. I try to make sure that I got all your titles correct. And yes, the purpose of that paragraph that was in the background section is really to restate what the TxDOT NEPA process is, how it got started, how we got the MOU from FHWA to be the one that is responsible for looking at it and signing off on it. And then also just reiterate that what we're trying to do is to make sure whatever is in this MOU does not conflict with that document. That's really our biggest concern in the whole MOU, that to make sure that nothing in there actually conflicts with NEPA process. So I think with that being said, I think TxDOT would be receptive to consider looking at deleting that table. And of course, I still have to run it past my legal and all that, but we'll definitely look at that. And we are, I mean, I think right now looking at it, I think I would be agreeable. I think I can be agreeable to remove that paragraph. Just want to make sure I check, dot the T's and I's and everything and all that. Mm-hmm. So to answer Mayor Zimmerman's request, I think we're good at it as long as everything else is included in the rest of the scope of the MOU.
I really appreciate that response, Ms. Paul, because I think that really caused a bit of thought on parts of folks as they looked at the document. I think with that, we would want to ask the signers in specific if that would give them a better level of comfort / confidence in moving forward. I know, you know, when people look at language, everyone sees something different, but when I looked at the sort of the nomenclature changes in the scope itself, I did not see anything that changes any of the intent that we had in the documents that we had submitted out from our drafts. So I would ask folks to look at it with that eye. And you know, I would not dare suggest that looking at it right now and responding right now would get us to that point. But would ask that people kind of step back and look at the document again if that paragraph is no longer there.
Madam Chair, that might make some sense. Chuck, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to, if I could, Madam Chair, I was curious, Eliza, if you have an idea how long, what time frame that would be for you to determine if that paragraph could be struck in the interest of keeping momentum going?
Chuck, I don't think that process will take too long. I think the document was reviewed by our legal, you know, so I think they just have to take a cursory look at that to make sure there's nothing in the paragraph that will cause any conflict with the rest of the document. I think that's really all they have to check on it. So I would not think, I mean, I think we will be able to give you some answer sometime next week.
Okay.
I would say that sounds reasonable, again, to align with the request that Mayor Zimmerman made. I think that insertion of that paragraph in the background section to the city seemed, you know, not in the right place in the document, and I agree that the scope of work does cover it. So hopefully your attorneys would see the same way. I think the other thing, in speaking with our mayor, and with the letter that he's released this week, that 15 of the 17 of us, including Mayor Turner, who serve on Houston City Council, have signed on to that letter. So that near unanimity and majority of council certainly feels strongly about what we have written into our document. And as carefully as I've read that, and Mayor Zimmerman, to your point, there's been a lot of reading here. I know I have not had a similar chance to do that which the county has brought forward. And I know that's actually a larger document than what the city released by some magnitude. And I'd like to understand what we're all doing with that. So I think what the mayor suggested was, first of all, that suggestion about the first paragraph that was recently inserted. And I, you know, just as a matter of reiterating the process that we've been through since in June, we decided to go toward this working group model for the MOU for those purposes. We appointed the members in late July on the 24th. And since that time, I think we've had, Patrick, seven scheduled meetings. I think there may have been one where we had technical difficulties that we postponed, but it was a point of near consensus that we reached on October 8th just over 2 months ago, when consensus from the working group members had near agreement to send the draft to all of our legal departments, and not to cast blame on TxDOT for this, but with the lawyers somehow review, we have been since then, in November 13th, when we saw this most recent adjustment, we've approached the holidays and had some time to reflect on this. But I think to suggest that we have a grace period, or as the mayor called it, a reading period for these documents, he suggested something that would certainly be within what Ms. Paul just suggested for next week. It'd be very nice if we could get this concluded in the next 10 days so that we could go into Christmas and the holidays with an understanding. I do believe we're very close to some memorandum of understanding that we can all stand by and sign. So I'm encouraged by already the progress we've made today.
I have a comment when I'm recognized.
Chair Patman.
Let me just cut to the heart of this, okay? Because there is a real problem here. On the one hand, what I would say, further to what Councilmember Robinson said, is we were very close. We were very close. We worked really hard over a span of months, and Eliza was so helpful and cooperative, and we got language that kind of everyone could live with. And then it was turned over to the TxDOT lawyers, who wordsmithed it like crazy. So it's impossible to tell what really matters legally to them and what doesn't. Most of it does not. And most of it doesn't really matter to us either. It's just a pain to have to go through it and figure out what changes the meaning and what doesn't. Why they did that, I don't know, but they did, so fine. But what is a problem is making this MOU subordinate to the FEIS. That is a problem, period. And we had worked everything through, the language was good, everybody was satisfied. And now the lawyers have come back and stuck in language on various places, including that second paragraph in the background that essentially subjugates this to the FEIS. And there are two problems with that. One is that the FEIS itself is not acceptable to Metro in its current form, or to the other stakeholders on the call that are going to have to weigh in on it, to the EPA. And so that process is ongoing. There's been another extension today, but we cannot possibly sign a memorandum of understanding that is subjugated to the FEIS, because the FEIS itself is not acceptable yet. But number two, the whole point of this was to put into a framework the additional steps that are going to be taken even after the FES is, or the EIS is finalized and the record of decision made, and a commitment to take those steps. So this continual reference back to the FEIS, saying essentially that we're subjugated to it, that is not okay. I mean, everybody's talking here, David's being really polite, etc. But we cannot, that's a non-starter. We can't do that. So we're going to have the rubber meet the road on this language that continues to pull it back to an FEIS that is acceptable, not where it is itself not where it needs to be. And I just have to be blunt about it, because we've spent meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and here we are. You know, they've rewritten everybody's commitments, the lawyers have, they've done all this stuff. And I went through it myself, and a lot of it isn't substantive. So I wish they hadn't done that, because it just throws a wrench in the works. But what is substantive, to the extent there is anything substantive, we need to know what it is, and we need to talk about that. And the first step is taking out that paragraph 2, for sure. But there are other places here where the same concept appears, and those need to be modified as well. So thank you. And this is what I understand the position of the city and the county, and Commissioner Garcia can weigh in and contradict me if I'm wrong, and Metro to be.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairwoman Patman. And you're literally reading my notes. because we have worked in good faith trying to come up with a collaborative to work on this project and to demonstrate a public project being done in the best possible interest for the public good. Aside from the comments that I completely endorsed by the chairwoman, I also saw, I not saw, but it's also interesting that TxDOT legal team would strike language in Harris County's section. And so I don't understand what liberty the TxDOT legal team would take with Harris County language. The same was done to City of Houston language. I just don't understand that. And actions like that, after all these weeks of meeting and working through this, and hearing you as a representative of TxDOT say we can work with that, you negotiated other language that you couldn't work with. And then I just find it, kind of disingenuous to say right now at the request by Mayor Zimmerman that you feel pretty good about that. You have to run up your flagpole, but you feel pretty good about that. We couldn't even get to the simplest of terms in some other items as we worked to this point to get that kind of assurance. It was all but no. And so I endorse Chairwoman Patman's concerns and frustrations, but I also take exception with TxDOT amending Harris County language.
Okay, others?
Chairman Lewis, can I just say a couple words?
Absolutely.
To that? Just want to respond to Chairman Patman's that there are languages in that first paragraph that kind of indicate that the FEIS rules over the MOU. So we have agreed to remove that paragraph. We have agreed to remove that paragraph out of the MOU, and all the other red lines, there are some minor edits and all that, just to I think our lawyer believed that make the document a little bit clearer, just context-wise. But the other thing is, in all the rest of the document, the only reason why we redline the rest of it is to make sure that the document does not in any way conflict with what is in the FEIS, and we have repeatedly stressed that that is the biggest issue that TxDOT have in the process, that we cannot be in conflict with our own document. TxDOT has worked for 10 years on this document, and hopefully, we're seeing the end of it. We have worked very, very, very hard, extremely hard to get to this point here. And we just don't want anything in the last second to jeopardize our entire process, and our entire document and our entire process. So any of the changes that we have done there, so it's really just to take out areas that we think is in conflict, which definitely that is very important to TxDOT. And then the rest of it, I think when we were, Commissioner Garcia, I'm sorry, but I think when we were redlining all the scope work under everybody, I think everybody was doing that. The whole entire document was being redlined. So everybody is not off limits. There were red lines on TxDOT also, and there were red lines on, so everybody was redlining everybody. So I don't think that was the reason why we redlining everybody. I think everybody else was redlining everybody. So I just want to say that our biggest issue is the conflict with the FEIS, and that's something that is we can't change. It's a factual thing, and we just, I can't make anything to change that.
Well, let me give an example, okay? Here we have Metro's goals. And I mean, yes, and I don't think everybody, we all went, the difference is we all went through together and everybody redlined everybody else's stuff. That was a collaborative effort. It wasn't one of the party's lawyers coming in and redlining the whole document. So that really is different, although I take your point. But let's take the Metro, oh, wait a minute, TPC 6. Wait a minute. It says commit to work, what are the Metro things? Commit to work with the public and all parties to review, study, and consider potential design refinements. They changed it on all of the commitments, I guess. And it says without interfering with the functionality of NHHIP as part of the interstate system. Well, that's just pure surplusage. First of all, I don't want that in there because it has nothing to do with a mere commitment to work with the public and all parties to review, study, and consider potential design refinements to the facility and or develop other projects to improve transit and walkability as feasible. That's just a statement. That anything beyond that is surplusage. If in fact there's something that interferes with the functionality of NHHIP as part of the interstate system, well, then you raise that at that time. But to write in that constraint is just verbiage, number one, and number two, I don't know how such useless verbiage, to be honest, and I'm being just kind of vexed here because we've gone through this so often, adds anything. I really don't want to have to spend additional time going through lawyers' nits and gnats that really don't matter. And they just are putting it on us to have to spend another 2 meetings or so going through language. And then what happens? You take it back to them and they add some more. So I think we really need to reach closure on this process. And I think the MOU was very good the way it was. And I think that the changes the lawyers made that are merely stylistic can be left by the side of the road. And the rest of them, most of them I just don't want to adopt. I mean, without interfering with it. What on earth does that mean? So if something's going to interfere with the NHHIP as part of the interstate system that has to do with bicycles or whatever, I don't know what it is, but I don't want language in there that I don't understand that's going to be used later. And I'm afraid a lot of this language was just put in because, gee, we have a contribution to make as TxDOT's lawyers. And as a lawyer myself, I recognize that that tendency to want to contribute in a meaningful way. But I don't want to accept a bunch of new verbiage that we haven't gone through and agreed to. That doesn't to me add anything and that I don't understand. And so that's step one, to take that out of our commitments, that little phrase.
So
we need to get closure here.
All right, so I think we all agree that there is absolutely no energy, no propensity to sit here and go through this document again. That's not going to happen. So if in fact there's more than that single paragraph, I thought that was the most problematic piece because it set the umbrella for context. But if there are a lot of other pieces like that throughout the document, I don't think we're going to be able to get those massaged enough to get to agreement for the new year and get something as was hoped.
Madam Chair,
I welcome a suggestion, Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you. Well, I'd love to have one, but the challenge is that the MOU, even with this paragraph out, is unacceptable. And I would be hard pressed to vote on any semantic changes when it doesn't change the position of Harris County.
Well, and I see other other changes in the Metro commitments that I can't live with either.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
I don't want to just tube the whole process here if there's a chance of reaching consensus. On the other hand, to have come this far and essentially be put back at square one is frustrating. Now, I am willing to spend one more meeting going through the whole darn thing, but I don't want it then countermanded by the TxDOT lawyers.
So the only way, let me just throw what's going on in my head. I don't think we should do any more wordsmithing because it is going to be reviewed. So I am at the point at which it seems to me, if we are going to have a document that each agency feels like it can sign, it's going to have to be almost the signers with the TxDOT attorneys. There's no reason for us to do anything additional because the text, Eliza, as she said, she had agreed to we had tried very diligently to take words from the TxDOT executive director, from Commissioner Ryan, to put that language in this particular piece. The attorneys are telling them that what we put in here was not sufficient to give them a level of confidence that they could make it through the legal process around the environmental document. So what everyone else needs, which is the commitment to not build the FEIS structure, TxDOT doesn't feel like they can do that clearly in this document. So I don't think there's any reason for us to go and try to wordsmith again because there is no success to that. So,
Madam Chair and Director, if yes. With the timeline that I basically read aloud earlier, if one were to go back to the October 8th draft that was the near consensus document, and if Ms. Paul could ask the attorneys there at TxDOT to consider that document as where we were when 2 months ago, we have now perhaps come full circle to where we understand that was where we needed to be. I'd like to know what, if they can understand that, perhaps they could tell us if there's anything that is necessary to add at all. That's my question.
So who are you asking that question of? Because I don't know I don't know who can answer it other than the attorneys in Austin.
That's where I think we can't expect to have an answer to that question today.
Right.
But I think as outlined, if we were to have a 10-day period, Mayor called it a reading period, but we get to a point where we have, I think, one more meeting, I think as Chairman Patman said, where we'd be all willing to go through it one more time. But, death by meeting is a near reality here.
So I will, with all due respect to everyone, suggest that there is absolutely no advantage to us going through the document and doing another attempt at editing. It's just not going to get us to, because the basic point of the basic gap is in TxDOT's feeling as if, and Ms. Paul just said it, and it was sort of the antithesis to what Chair Patman said. TxDOT feels like this MOU is a subsistent document to the FEIS, and they're trying to make sure that the MOU doesn't look that way. And so, I'm just sort of at a loss as to how we can wordsmith that difference to a point of acceptance. The only thing that kind of occurs to me is if Chair Patman can go highlight the areas where she thinks, so that first paragraph is clearly one, but if she could also go through and highlight the other areas where she thinks there's a big gap in the FEIS structure. We asked Ms. Paul to take those particular highlighted sections back. But see, the other piece is the conversation about all the other wordsmithing that happened. And so if we're already saying, You know, Harris County is not happy with how TxDOT wordsmith their section. Metro doesn't like the way they, you know, their section was wordsmith. So if the request is to TxDOT, is a specific request to TxDOT, can the, you know, initial paragraph in the background section be removed? Can the highlighted sections that Ms. Patman, you know, pulls out, can that be changed? And will you remove all of the language that was placed in the scope of work? I mean, if that's a specific request back to TxDOT, I think we can do a specific request back to TxDOT.
Well, when it's appropriate for me to be recognized, let me.
It is appropriate for you to be recognized.
Okay. Well, the taking out of that second paragraph, that's a really good first start. That really helps. So if we can agree to that, that does move the ball. A lot of this, as I said before, is not objectionable. It's wordsmithing. I wish they hadn't done it because it makes it confusing, but they did. So here we go. And in some cases they improved the language, but still to throw it out, it just was, you really could have lived without it because it's confusing. Then you have to go through. But the other thing is there's this language, MOU purpose and party, second bullet point. The purpose of the MOU is, okay, the language, these common broad system goals, blah, blah. Nope, that's got to come out. Because while we're not trying to jeopardize TxDOT's FEIS when it's ultimately changed, hopefully, to take into account all the stakeholders' positions, that right there, that's another one of those subjugations. Third bullet point is fine. Fourth bullet point, no, that language needs to come out. These common broad system goals, blah, blah, blah.
So let me stop you just a second, because I don't know if anybody else is an attorney, but you are the attorney that would help to sort of focus this. So you're kind of going through it. I think this is what I was asking about, you're highlighting those sections. So as you go through it, I'm wondering if Patrick is actually making a point of noting these particular areas so that we don't have to go back later and figure out what they were.
That's what I was going to propose. If we could have Patrick track Chair Patman's requests so we can highlight those areas so we can then submit them would be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
So I can highlight those like this
Right. Well, it's pretty easy, really. The ones that I care about and that I think others would care about.
Okay, so if you could, Patrick, go down to the second bullet point, which was also just mentioned.
Okay.
Under purpose.
Every time the sentence appears, these common broad system goals shall not conflict with, modify, or supplant the project purpose and need as identified in the final FEIS. I mean, I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds like it's subjugating it to the FEIS. And then again, final bullet point under Metro's City of Houston and all the final bullet point under everybody, where it says without interfering with the functionality of NHHIP as part of the interstate system. That is utterly superfluous to the purpose of this, and it needs to come out, and I don't even know what it means. And then, okay, under Metro, first bullet point, that red language of the NHHIP as proposed in the final EIS. I can't tell from this, is that in there or is it deleted? At any rate, if it says coordinate with TxDOT to ensure that the voter-approved MetroNet projects and specifically two-way HOV connections are included in the design and construction of the NHHIP as proposed in the final EIS, no, because they are increasing our cost in the final EIS. We have an objection to the way those are framed, as I understand it, in the EIS, and Tom can talk to us about that. And really, those are the changes.
Okay.
I mean, I might catch another nit or wordsmith if I went through it again with a fine-tooth comb, but those are the gist of the substantive changes.
Okay, that's good. And then Commissioner Garcia, if you could get someone on your team to kind of do the same thing. And then what I would ask is that we assemble that list of requested changes, send them all in one request via Eliza up through the attorneys. And then that would be what we find out if they say yes, or, you know, if they come back with only minor things that we could talk about at an upcoming meeting. That sounds like something we could.
Very good.
As an approach.
We'll do that, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, if we could have a time frame on that, just to keep the momentum going.
Okay,
on that, and hopefully
sure.
we could have the possibility of having one more meeting to hear the response before we break for the end of the year, and that could be very helpful if we could get a time.
Okay, I am open to hearing that. Commissioner Garcia, I'm asking, probably you've got the thing that you need to take back and ask someone to look at.
That's correct, Madam Chair, but also the question has been made, and I just want to reiterate, why can't we go back to the original document that we approved previously?
I think that the issue with the previous approved document was the text dot. Now, look, we can have Eliza say it as opposed to me, but the way I would word it is that text dot attorneys are particularly sensitive to opportunities in the MOU that could be read as if they are not committed to the FEIS, because that reading allows them to be open to someone to sue and stop the entire process. So they're trying to structure the MOU that we sent to them so that they don't see a hole in the way that could be read, and then them subsequently sued for not following their own FEIS. And one of the things that has been said, and because we all talk about this a lot in our background networks, one of the things that has been said is that one would be hard pressed to pick up any FEIS and then look and see if the project has been built like the FEIS. Projects are always changed from the FEIS, and this one will be too. And so what TxDOT is trying to ensure in their changes to our original document is they will respond into places where they saw, I'll just call them cracks, that someone wanting to sue them could use as their the basis for their lawsuit.
Well,
that was
Chair,
my words, not a lot.
We're also TxDOT getting sued is one thing. Getting another precious Houston community compromised and sacrificed for this process is unacceptable. And I think that's where, Commissioner, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's where in the point where we were near consensus on October 8th, if not verbatim for the TxDOT lawyers, if they could read that with the understanding of the spirit with which we were near the end. That is our point. And that somehow what has happened since then has left us all with a feeling of the unacceptability of what currently exists in this potential MOU. If it is an understanding, it has to be mutually acceptable. And I think that is the point about the October 8th document that I'd like to emphasize.
And I think that you have well described what exactly is the tension between the October 8th, and what I was trying to answer is why they didn't accept that October 8th version. And so what you have described is exactly what creates the tension. The fact that we have heard from so many, and even whatever our own personal positions are, about how the project should look at the end. You know, I don't know that anyone, that there are probably not very many people around the table who think that the project should be built exactly like it is in the FEIS. You know, we don't think that.
Madam Chair.
And we're all trying to get to something better. It's just that right now, this piece of this document, this MOU, you know, we were trying to develop it as a bridge, you know, that took us through. And what's happened is it's very difficult for it to bridge. It's not easily bridging as we had wanted. Commissioner?
Madam Chair, thank you. I'm willing to work towards one more meeting. I'm willing to commit my staff, that includes attorneys, to one more meeting and one more stab at this document. But I think, look, I try to be mindful that we're speaking to TxDOT, and I want to be respectful of Ms. Paul. But when I craft my agreements that my office is specifically working on, my legal team does so with my input. I'm not the lawyer, but they know exactly the agreement that I'm working towards. I think it's important for us to know, Ms. Paul, because I'm sure your legal team didn't just go through this document without some input from you or your immediate team that's been working on this project. I think it's important for us to know if we commit to one more meeting and we work to resurrect, you know, significant portions of the agreed upon MOU, what can we expect from you as an advocate to this project and to working with this body?
Chairman Lewis, Commissioner Garcia, are you finished with your comments?
Yes.
So I don't want to interrupt if you are not finished with your comments yet. And I do want to respect all of you, everyone on this committee, for spending all the time to work with us on this. And the 2 points I want to bring up. Number one, TxDOT has consistently said that the FEIS is a picture of a snapshot in time. And we begin the process of this picture and we have to end the process. You know, that's the NEPA process. I used this analogy before. It's like, I'm a builder, I'm trying to build you a house. I give you a sketch in the beginning to look at. And then I'm trying to get to the floor plan stage. Okay, so the rod is the floor plan stage. And then all these asks that the changes and everything that you are asking will come after the rod. You know, after the floor plan, if you want to add a game room, if you want to add a third bathroom, you want to add a 3-car garage or something, I can always do that. You know, the builder can always do that. I will add on to it. But before I get to the floor plan, I can't do that. I don't even know what I'm building. So that's really where the FEIS and the ROD is. And the October 8th document, what we've done, yes, we ironed it out, we talk over it, we discuss. And during the discussion, I personally have brought out issues that I think that I have concerns about. And that's why it takes 3 or 4 meetings before we end up come to that point. I brought up the concerns, but I was overruled. I was, you know, the majority rules or whatever, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a very smart engineer either. So, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have that training. So the October 8th document, when it comes to final form, it went to our legal department. They looked at it they see the same concern. So no matter how we wordsmith it, we couldn't get the intent of the document out of it. Okay, and I think that's what our lawyer sees in the October 8th document, and that's what TxDOT's comments on that is what we want to do. We are going to do a lot of the changes that you're recommending and all that. But before I get to my floor plan, I need to get to my floor plan in order to be able to, for me to implement some of that work. So I just want to make sure you all understand how we plan on doing this.
Well, now I've got to say something because she's, Ms. Paul, you're using a metaphor now that I know something about as an architect. And I would like to suggest that if you're adding a 3-car garage after the design has been started, that's the wrong point to add a 3-car garage, because the 3-car garage is probably going to blow the budget. But I don't know how to handle the engineering metaphors, and I'm not a lawyer either. So I think we all want to move forward, Madam Chair, with one more chance at the folks getting the language right who know the language the best. And I think the 5 co-signing members know what they've got in it. I've got a number of folks here with the city, number one person being the mayor himself. And I think this is where our comments and commitments as outlined have been very carefully considered. And again, with emphasis back to the October 8th meeting and that document where we were for the MOU of the North Houston Highway Improvement Project, that was a pretty good place for us to be. So maybe that's my final point today.
I doubt that it's going to actually be your final point.
Really?
Unless
Okay.
You're going away.
I'm optimistic.
Okay. All right. So I think our point of departure was in trying to come up with a date that we would have specific requests that go back up to the TxDOT lawyers. So I think Commissioner Garcia, and as I mentioned, Commissioner Garcia, I'm trying to come up with a date. Councilmember Robinson, you may choose to participate in that as well.
Well, just one point is a week from today, we do have the final TPC meeting of the year. So might be nice to have made some progress by that point. If next Wednesday, maybe, I don't know. Commissioner, how long do you need to get your comments in? I'm sure our folks are, we could probably say Monday. I don't want people to hate me for working through the weekend, but sometime in the first half of next week for our comments to TxDOT.
Madam Chair, if I could,
yes.
There seem to be two different parts of a conversation, and it'd be good to kind of maybe finalize part of that before we come up with a date. One option was to go through the current document that we have and track in some changes that people have now, perhaps allow until maybe Monday close of business for any additional comments to this draft that's been edited by the TxDOT attorneys, and then return that with a certain date to have comments back and meet again. And the other option was to go back to the October document and ask, from what I can tell, request that the TxDOT attorneys look at that document and really only add or edit what is truly critical and essential. There was a term that Chair Patman used, I can't remember what it was, legally essential, something like that. And I'm not sure that we've totally resolved which one of those we're going to do. So it might be good to find out the preference of which one of those, and then after that we can establish.
So let me offer, if we go back to the October 8th document, we probably are adding a step, because you're going to have the TxDOT attorneys look at it, then they're going to send it, and then we would have to look at it again. If we start with what we have now, with people sort of identifying their non-starters. I mean, and I think that's what we're talking about from the city, Harris County, and Metro, highlighting for each of them, what is a non-starter? Sending those back to TxDOT, seeing if TxDOT can make adjustment to those non-starters. Then at that point, when we get them back, we know whether we will be able to move forward or not. At that point, the city, county, Metro can look at what TxDOT has responded to when they've seen the non-starters and said, okay, this was a non-starter for us. TxDOT said no, so now we know what we know, right?
Yep, I agree. Just wanted to make sure we can clarify.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So are we at Commissioner Garcia, Councilman Robinson, a late Monday afternoon with those?
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
Monday and Tuesday do not work for me because that's
Okay.
Commissioner's Court.
Okay.
So that does not work for me.
So are we to Wednesday? Where are we?
I can, I have a hard stop and I will make changes. Let's see, I'm available between 11 and 11:30 and 2:30 on Wednesday.
Okay, so this is to work with your team because the first step we're talking about is highlighting.
Yeah, I'll let my team then work with everybody else to figure out the schedule on after Tuesday rather.
Okay, step one is the highlighted document from Harris County that takes the text-out version of the MOU and highlights the things that are definite no's for Harris County. In other words, if this stays in here, Harris County will not sign. And so if we can assemble those pieces for the city, Harris County, and Chair Patman, she may feel as if she's given us all of hers, but we want to confirm that.
Yeah, I can do that quickly and just say that the October 8th version of Harris County is acceptable.
Okay. All right. All right. Well,
I think that's a ditto from the city of Houston. You know, we could mark it up, I think, pretty easily by.
So then that, to me, that changes the question. If that's the question, then TxDOT then says, these are the things that, well, it changes the way the question is worded. So for them, it's not non-starters, but for them, it's that you would ask them to minimally look at the October 8th document. They're not gonna, okay, so I'm gonna presume they're not gonna accept it as is, right? So
yeah, Chairman Lewis, maybe I can, I mean, the October 8th document is what we started up with our legal. So they already looked at it once, they marked it up. So you want them to go back and look at the same original document. I just don't know if the markup is going, what you're seeing now is going to be very different.
Yeah.
Then, I mean,
essentially,
you're asking us to do it again.
Right. So I actually hear that, and I guess that's why I was struggling a little bit with what to even say about what would be asked of them of October 8th. I mean, what would be the ask?
I think the ask that I had is to look at the October 8th near consensus document for the spirit of where we are together with an MOU. For the other signing parties, we were all ready to go, and to consider how since then we have taken 2 months to get to this point where essentially we're all frustrated, and we could try the markup version. I mean, we're saying look at the October 8th if you want to know what we want, and we can mark that up by Monday, you know, end of business. I don't think that's that's not a deal breaker for us.
Okay, so I'm sort of trying to process then the request to TxDOT, if it's look at the October 8th document and see if you feel as intently about it as you did the first time you looked at it. I will be honest with, I'm kind of where Eliza is. I don't know how that gets us any closer to an endpoint of them saying, you know, that there's something they can sign there. And it may be that if that's your pleasure, that what you're saying is we want to say that the October 8th version is what the city and county will accept. And then TxDOT has it in their, field of play to either say yes or no. And then that's where we are.
Okay, Madam Chair, I think you've offered two suggestions, and maybe Chairman Patman, as our lawyer, can help us get to it. But I think, the commissioner and I have said, let's go back to the October 8th document, because that's where we were when we, I think, got derailed a little bit here. You're saying you understand some of the concerns that TxDOT has. So we could take a pass quickly at marking that up and getting it back to TxDOT so we could have one more try at consensus. I don't think anybody wants to waste any more time with this, but I will, this is verbatim from our mayor, and it is to simply say that if TxDOT is not budging on this, then there is simply no value to the MOU.
Okay, and I think that's what we need to ferret out that answer, right? So there are two ways at this point to do that. One is to have them go back and look at the October 8th document, and at that point they say we're not budging, so then we know. Or the second way is to take their markup and for us to, to go back and say, okay, these are non-starters, we will not sign with these things here. And then at that point we know. If they say we don't want to change these things, then we know that we are at an impasse, as you, I think, originally worded it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
What I would favor, upon hearing everybody and thinking it, is taking their markup and going through, because I really think that's going to end up being easier. I don't think they have made, I think a lot of the changes made are not substantive. And to that extent, I don't care. I don't care about using somebody else's language, which in some cases is clearer than our language, but the substantive parts do matter. And it might be easier to take their markup and just isolate, here are the substantive things that we care about. Just if I did. I mean, that's really what I did. I might have missed one or two. No. That's the gist.
Right. And I think if we can agree with that approach, then we're asking the city to do the same thing. Harris County to do the same thing.
We're ready
to. The question is, do we get those back by Monday?
We can do that. We can commit to that at the city.
Okay. Commissioner, I know you're kind of not, I know you're kind of struggling with exactly when to commit it, but
we'll work through it, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. And I guess with that we can say we know that you'll process it as quickly as you possibly can get it processed. All right. Okay.
Chair Patman was attempting to say something but muted. I think you might want to.
Okay, Chair, you're muted.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Just checking.
All right. All right. So I think we have an approach. We're going to have the TxDOT edited document that our three major parties are going to go through, sort of make sure that the highlighted areas of concern are marked. Chair Patman we've got the ones that you named, and so you go through and see if there's anything else you want to add to that, Chair. Send those to Patrick, and then what we would do, I think, Patrick, is compile them and circulate them so that everybody can see what's being asked, and then send it to TxDOT. And just because I've worked a really long time, I doubt that we're going to get through all that process by next Friday. And I know, Chuck, you might want to, and you might want to say something, but
I think if we can really push to get the comments back, as we mentioned, and Patrick get those to TxDOT, then Eliza had mentioned perhaps a week. Needed to get the lesser comment addressed, Perhaps perhaps comments could be back to the work group by the 22nd, which would give you know, we could look at an early January meeting of this group. Thoughts to consider.
I like that as a calendar.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Chairman Lewis and
yes.
and Chuck, we definitely will 100% shoot for that. I don't want to 100% promise you because I know the workload of our attorney generals and all that, and the people that we have to deal with. So, but I'm going to promise you I'm going to work very hard to get it by the December the 22nd. I'm going to commit to doing that. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, awesome.
Well, and may I say one other thing, and that is, thank you, Eliza. I mean, this has been probably the person this has all been most stressful for is you, because you obviously should deal with your lawyers and have to deal with your lawyers, plus all of us making demands. Right. So thank you so very much for your patience in all of this.
I know. All right.
Thank you, Chairman. It's all part of my job. Thank you.
Well, I hope you get paid the big bucks then. Whatever you're getting paid, it's not enough.
Make a motion to pay Eliza the big bucks.
Second.
I second.
Certainly
right.
Get paid the big bucks. Yes.
Oh, goodness. Oh, all right. Well, okay. So let me open it to any other comments that folks would have. Other than that, I think we probably have an approach. I don't know if anyone wants to repeat it just to make sure we've got it.
And Dr. Lewis, if I could quickly
yes.
add, that would allow us ample time, if TxDOT's able to meet that, to schedule a meeting of this group for late in that first week of January. So we don't have a large loss of momentum. We can also revisit this and have things ready well in advance of early January. We're all going to be very busy with the legislative session and everything else kicking off. So it'd be good to reach a conclusion on this in that early January timeframe for TPC.
So that's the first week that starts with Monday the 4th and ends with Friday the 8th?
Correct. Looking at possibly the 8th. Should be ample time, I would hope.
Sounds good. Okay.
That would be 4 weeks from today, I think. Or is that 3 weeks?
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
4 weeks from today.
Unless the group wants to meet you know, the last week of December, quorum might be difficult, but
the chair would like to say no.
Chair has a second.
I second the chair too.
Oh goodness. All right. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? So let me just say as profusely as I possibly can, thank you to everyone. I mean, I know we are, you know, slugging our way through this, but I have absolutely no doubt we will all be pleased with the final product. And whenever we get to the point, I've worked long enough to see the projects that we planned actually implemented, and then we will all be able to do, you know, a concerted musical note that we made it through and we all contributed to. Honestly, something that we're all very, very happy with. And our communities are sound and safe, and we've retained character, and we've minimized displacements, and, you know, we've added capacity, and we've added transit, and we've done, you know, all the things that we want to do. You know, we've minimized our air quality, negative air quality impacts. You know, we've just, all of the things that we've heard and all the things that are important to all of us, that we will absolutely positively get there. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well said, Dr. Lewis.
Be safe, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Concur.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank
bye.
you, Chairman Lewis.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.